Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Let me tell you, it's been a crazy few months. I have not posted a video in like forever. I've totally been ignoring the channel. I just have had no time for it. I've been so busy and I've just barely started my channel and I have only been posting a few videos every now and then, but I'm hoping to jump back in the game. So today we're going to be doing a review of Assistant to the Villain. So I'm really excited for that. So this is going to be a non-spoiler review since I don't feel the need to get into too much detail with this one. But starting off, I enjoyed this one. The prologue, I was a little confused, I was a little iffy, and I almost dropped it right off the bat. I was close. Ultimately, I'm glad I kept reading because I enjoyed this one and I thought it was fun. So it's basically about how our main character, Evie, is in dire need of a job and few people are willing to hire her, but she ends up finding one in the most unlikely of places, and that is under the employ of the villain, who is also our love interest. So things get interesting as soon as these two meet, at least for me. I enjoyed their meet cute, even if to them it probably didn't feel very cute at the time. I thought it was done well. One of the main things that surprised me was that it ended up being a fantasy. I was not expecting that for some reason. I was expecting like a superhero comic book story villain in a modern city setting, and so having it be fantasy was a surprise to me. And it was basically just a modern office setting, but fantasy. But I feel like that was intentional, and I think she did it well. Was it just an office setting? Yes. But I thought it was fun how she adapted it to the fantasy and made it feel just very enchanted fairy tale. And it was very fun and quirky, and I loved the writing style, and it was just fun to read. I just enjoyed it. It wasn't a super in-depth story or anything that really wowed me, but I did have fun reading it. We had some interesting characters that were, you know, your basic friend group, and then we have obviously Evie and the villain, and though they had kind of a slow burn, and I've heard some people complain that there wasn't enough romance, which for a lot of books, I happen to agree. I'm a total romance junkie. I'm always for the romance. Though sometimes I feel like romances just aren't written well, but thankfully I didn't think that was the case here. It was not a primary focus for some moments, and I thought that was okay. Sometimes it's okay to have other plot points in a story, and sometimes, okay, all the time, you need more plot points in a story because different things that will happen to the characters in your storyline are there to provide substance and actual meaning to the book. You can have pure fluff, and that's okay, maybe for like a short story, but for a full-length novel, you do need other focus points. And I thought that was done okay for this book. I thought there were fun scenes and there was enough drama for me. There were some of the characters that I was a little annoyed by, but not enough to make me hate the book in any way. I just had to kind of deal with them, and there really weren't that many characters that were focused on. It mainly was just Evie and the villain, and I was okay with that. It didn't feel too focused on them, and it didn't feel too slow or unfocused on them, and I thought it had some decent interaction time throughout the novel, and I think it accomplished its goal as a fantasy humor. It was more lighthearted overall, but it still had some action in there and some danger. There are moments where it has some violence, because the villain is the villain. He does cruel things because that's his role as a character. It's his whole thing, basically. He's going to do cruel things, sometimes be gruff or mean, but also at the same time, he really is just a big softie. And Evie brings out that side of him, as is so common in these types of stories, right? It's the grumpy sunshine trope. We've seen it 1,000 times, but I still thought this was fun. I didn't mind reading it again. And it had its own interesting twists, you know? I fully support tropes as long as you add some spins and create some new intrigue that we haven't seen before. And I feel like this story did do that. I suppose there were some loose threads that could have been more fixed up, but the second one is still not out yet. It comes out in a few weeks, I think on August 6th, I believe. So it'll be coming out pretty soon, and I'm excited to read that. Though there were some things at the end I was a little grated by and I wish had been done differently. For example, I won't go into detail, but specifically with Evie's character towards the end of the novel, there were things that happened and I understand the path she's going down, but there are a lot of aspects about her character that I really don't want to change because I love Evie and just her quirkiness and upbeat attitude and her fun personality. I'm hoping that stays the same during the second book. But we shall see. I'm looking forward to it, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it lives up to the first book, and if not, I won't be severely disappointed. Again, this wasn't a novel that I was like totally head over heels for or in love with, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was fun. It was a fairly satisfying read for me, and again, not what I was expecting, but not in a bad way. I still thought it was enjoyable and served the purpose that it was going for as a novel. Now, going back to the end of the book, while there were those things that like frustrated me a teensy bit, there was a major plot twist that I really liked and I thought was done fairly well. It was not something I was expecting, but at the same time made a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of novels will do major plot twists just to throw people off, but they forget to back them and they forget to lead up to it. They forget to put the hints beforehand that will make that plot twist make sense, rather than thrusting something upon the readers that's like total whiplash. Like, where the heck did this come from? It makes no sense. Sure, there's betrayal, but why would this end up happening? This didn't do that, and I was grateful for it. I felt like it did make sense. There were things that led up to it, even if it was subtle. And so I appreciate that way of doing things because that kind of thing really frustrates me. I feel like everything should be done with a reason, and sometimes it's just really obvious in novels when the author was not thinking things through. And for most parts of this novel, I feel like she was at least had some plans and was thinking through for most things. So I'm looking forward to the second book, seeing as it did end on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and getting to know more of the backstory of the villain, because it alluded to a lot of things, but it was still intentionally vague, and I'm really hoping she'll reveal more. Really, that's all I have to say about this book. I thought it was fairly well done. I enjoyed it personally. I thought it was just lighthearted fun and a good mix of mystery and action, but humorous fantasy at the same time. And I just enjoyed it. So thank you for watching and heeding my ranting of random novels. I like to go on about books, and there are some that I don't have much to say on. It just happens. But I did enjoy this one. I thought it was fun. I'm looking forward to the next one. And I really don't have much else to say other than that. So I will see you in the next video where I talk more about other books. So with that, goodbye!